In recent years, the rise of child influencers has changed the landscape of social media and digital content creation. Children, some as young as toddlers, have gained massive followings on platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. While these young stars often enjoy fame, exposure, and financial rewards, they also face serious risks, both emotional and physical, due to their online presence. The tragic Ruby Franke scandal, which shocked the public in 2023, highlighted the dangers that children in the influencer world face. This incident served as a catalyst for new legislation aimed at protecting child influencers and regulating the growing influencer economy. This article explores the proposed legislation designed to protect child influencers, the role of online platforms, the challenges of enforcing these laws, and the long-term implications for both the children and the content creators involved. Ruby Franke, a well-known parenting influencer with millions of followers, gained attention for her family-focused content. She shared her life with her husband and children, presenting an image of a picture-perfect family. However, in 2023, the Franke family's carefully curated public persona unraveled when Ruby Franke was arrested on charges related to the abuse and neglect of her children. The charges followed a disturbing series of events that culminated in the rescue of two of Franke's children, who were found emaciated and living in dire conditions. Ruby Franke's social media accounts were filled with videos and posts portraying a seemingly perfect family life, but behind the scenes, the reality was far darker. The incident sparked outrage, public outrage, and widespread calls for accountability, particularly in the context of the responsibilities influencers have when it comes to protecting children from exploitation. The Ruby Franke scandal was not an isolated incident. Several high-profile cases of child influencer exploitation have been reported, where children were coerced into participating in videos, subjected to extreme pressures for content creation, or manipulated for financial gain. These cases reveal how the industry lacks sufficient regulations to protect children from harm, and the Ruby Franke scandal made it clear that legal reforms are urgently needed. Child influencers have become a dominant force in the social media landscape. Platforms such as YouTube and Instagram allow children to showcase their talents, personalities, and family lives, often leading to lucrative sponsorships, brand deals, and a large online following. For many families, this has become a business venture, with children at the center of the content. In some cases, children enjoy the perks of fame, such as travel, luxury goods, and the opportunity to engage with millions of fans. However, the pressure to constantly produce content can be overwhelming, especially for young minds that are not yet equipped to handle the emotional and psychological toll of being in the public eye. Research has shown that children are particularly vulnerable to the negative effects of social media. They may face cyberbullying, harassment, and exploitation. Moreover, the constant need to maintain an online presence can interfere with their education, social development, and mental well-being. In extreme cases, children are pressured to perform in ways that compromise their dignity or safety. Furthermore, the line between private life and public life is often blurred for child influencers. Children are thrust into the spotlight without the ability to consent fully to the implications of their actions. In many cases, they are unable to make informed decisions about how much of their lives they want to share or the potential consequences of their exposure. The vulnerability of child influencers underscores the need for strong protections to ensure their safety and well-being. The legislation being proposed seeks to address these concerns by placing restrictions on the way child influencers can be featured in online content. In response to the Ruby Franke scandal and similar cases, legislators are now calling for comprehensive reforms that would specifically protect child influencers. The proposed laws aim to introduce various measures that safeguard children in the digital age. While the specifics of the legislation vary by jurisdiction, several key provisions have emerged as central to these reforms. 1. Consent and parental involvement. One of the core aspects of the new legislation is the requirement for clear and informed consent for children appearing in online content. Influencers and their families would be required to obtain legal consent from a parent or guardian before a child is featured in any online content. This consent would not only apply to the initial creation of content, but also to how it is distributed, marketed, and monetized. The legislation would also require that a child's involvement in content creation is based on the best interests of the child, taking into account their emotional, physical, and psychological well-being. Parents and guardians would be held accountable for ensuring that their child's participation does not harm their development or cause undue stress. 2. Limits on work hours and content production. Like traditional child actors, child influencers would be subject to regulations concerning the number of hours they can work each week. These regulations would ensure that children are not overworked or exploited for the sake of content creation. Limits would be placed on how many hours a child can spend in front of a camera, as well as the total number of hours spent on social media-related activities such as filming, editing, and engaging the followers. Furthermore, content creators would be required to schedule breaks and ensure that children's education and extracurricular activities are not compromised by their online work. This provision recognizes that children are not mini adults, and their development requires balance and care. 3. Financial protections and trust funds. Another major provision of the proposed legislation is the establishment of financial protections for child influencers. In many cases, parents and guardians manage the financial earnings of their child, but the money earned is often not allocated to the child's future well-being. The legislation would mandate that a portion of the earnings from child influencers' work be placed in a trust fund, accessible only when the child reaches adulthood. This trust fund would ensure that children benefit financially from their labor, providing them with savings for their future. The use of the funds would be tightly regulated to prevent misuse or mismanagement by parents or guardians. 4. Age appropriateness and content restrictions. Another critical aspect of the new regulations is the enforcement of age-appropriate content for child influencers. The legislation would impose restrictions on the type of content children can produce or be involved in, ensuring that they are not exposed to inappropriate material or pressured to engage in harmful behavior for the sake of views or likes. Platforms that host child influencers, such as YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, would be required to implement stronger age verification systems to prevent children from engaging in content creation activities that are not suitable for their age group. Content that is explicitly violent, sexually suggestive, or otherwise inappropriate for minors would be prohibited. 5. Mental health and support services. Child influencers, like many young stars, often experience mental health challenges as a result of their online exposure. These issues can include anxiety, depression, and social isolation. The proposed legislation would require content platforms to provide mental health resources for child influencers and their families. This could include access to counseling, support groups, and other services designed to help children and their families navigate the emotional toll of living in the public eye. Moreover, influencers would be encouraged to take regular mental health breaks and limit their time online. Platforms may also be tasked with creating features that allow children to filter or block harmful comments or content. The role of social media platforms and enforcement. Social media platforms are key players in the ecosystem of child influencers. The responsibility for enforcing these new protections will largely fall on platforms such as YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. These platforms will be required to adopt policies that align with the new legislation and ensure compliance with the regulations. To do so, platforms would need to introduce robust age verification systems, monitor content for compliance with child protection laws, and work closely with child protection agencies and organizations. Failure to comply with these regulations could result in fines, penalties, or even a ban on hosting content related to child influencers. Enforcing these protections will require a collaborative effort between lawmakers, digital platforms, and child advocacy organizations. It may also necessitate the development of new technology, such as algorithms that can identify and flag exploitative or harmful content, as well as improved reporting mechanisms for concerned parties. Challenges and controversies. While the proposed legislation aims to protect children, it is not without its challenges and controversies. One of the main concerns is the balance between protecting children and allowing families the freedom to create content and benefit from it financially. Critics argue that too many restrictions may stifle creativity and limit the ability of families to earn a living from their online presence. Furthermore, there are concerns about the practicality and feasibility of enforcing these regulations. With millions of children involved in social media content creation across various platforms, it may be difficult to ensure that all influencers are complying with the laws. Additionally, given the global nature of social media, there may be difficulties in enforcing national laws across different jurisdictions. The tragic Franke scandal serves as a stark reminder of the dangers that child influencers face in the digital age. The proposed legislation is a necessary step toward ensuring that children are protected from exploitation, harm, and undue pressure in the influencer economy. By introducing clear guidelines, regulations, and support systems, lawmakers aim to create a safer and more ethical space for child influencers to thrive without compromising their well-being. While the implementation of these laws will not be without its challenges, they represent a crucial step toward protecting vulnerable children in a rapidly evolving digital landscape. The future of child influencers may look different, but it is one where their safety, mental health, and financial security are prioritized over profit and fame. As the digital world continues to shape the lives of young people, it is essential that protections are put in place to ensure that they are not exploited or harmed in the pursuit of online success.